Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Umar Khalid, and I'm actually the host for another host, but I'm here to introduce our speaker tonight, which is Brother Hassan Al-Husairi. Okay, currently a university student. Which university? Okay. Okay. Yeah, so West of Scotland, yeah? Okay. So he's lived in Scotland for whole young life, most of his life. He's originally Syrian, and one of the motivations for him to go on this cycling for Syria is in order for him to go back to his original country to visit, yeah? Okay, and to raise awareness and raise funds for the Save Village in Syria, which costing 400,000 pounds. Yeah. So inshallah, I will pray and please to each other for his mission for our brother. And he has done some events in the past, such as sports fundraising events. And we recently have done one in Hilton, where renovations is done. Uh, 248,000, mashallah. That's a lot of money from the bank. And also, and I also pass this mic on our speaker.
Assalamu alaikum. I'm Hassan Al-Husairi, as the brother introduced me. I'm one of the cyclists cycling from Glasgow to Syria. And inshallah, throughout the session today, I'll put the slideshow to industry about the project, the money will be raised, will be used for, and the cycling, and many other things regarding the project. Inshallah, I'll pass you on to Ramis Mahmoud. He is one of the cyclists that will be joining us from Glasgow to Syria. Ramis is one of the students at Strathclyde University studying computer science, second year, and inshallah he'll be talking to us about the why should we help Syria and more about the cycling. Then I'll be joining you a bit later in the project.
Assalamu alaikum. First, I'd like to say thank you to SUMSA and the Malaysian Society for having us here today. What I'm here to talk about is kind of the atrocities our brothers and sisters are having to face in Syria. For the last 3 years, the Syrian humanitarian crisis. Sorry, just bear with me. Also, can you hear me? Is that okay? Yeah. Since the humanitarian crisis began in Syria, thousands of families have been torn apart, people's homes have been destroyed. But it does beg the question, how does this affect us? Why should we give our time to help our brothers and sisters in Syria? I take it most of you have heard of the whole idea of the Muslim Ummah. Yeah? Prophet ﷺ described the Ummah like a body, in the sense that if one part of the body is in pain, the whole body feels it. Of course, we can see our brothers and sisters in Syria in pain at the moment. We can see on the news every day. I want to ask you all a question right now. When wars like this come, like when humanitarian crises are about, who's the worst affected? Does anyone know? Of the people who are getting attacked, who's the worst? Like, who's the most vulnerable out of them? What's that, sorry?
Children.
Children, of course, children. And out of the children, who's the worst affected? Do you know what children are the most vulnerable? Do you know? The orphans.
Yeah.
The orphans. Yeah. I'm sure most of you know the Prophet ﷺ was an orphan. And there's a hadith about helping orphans. But first I want to show you some of the key facts about the Syrian humanitarian crisis since it began. Since it began 3 years ago, almost 9.3 million people are in urgent need of aid. 5.5 million children have been affected by this. There are 6.5 million people who are currently right now in Syria. They're displaced, which means they don't have any homes to go to, just have to live in the streets. Imagine that, alhamdulillah, look how fortunate all of us are. We have a home to go to tonight. You have somewhere to, you have a warm bed, and all these people have nothing. They'll be on the streets tonight. There are 2.5 million people who have had to flee the country and go to the neighbouring countries. Over 200,000 people have been killed since this began. And as I said earlier, the most vulnerable people are children. 3/4 of the people who have been killed have been women and children. And the Prophet, peace be upon him, said, "The one who cares for an orphan and myself will be together in paradise like this," and he held his two fingers like that. SubhanAllah, who here would not want that? To be in paradise with the Prophet ﷺ like that. So now it comes to the question, will you help them? Are you the people who can go to the calling and help these children? So I want to show you a short video about the kind of people you'll be helping and the work we at Human Appeal are currently doing in Syria. Inshallah, sources.
The Syrian conflict has escalated out of control. Rebels want to overthrow what they call an evil dictator. The president wants an end to what he calls terrorism. Outside powers seem only to contribute money, weapons and troops, but no one has been able to find a political solution to end the conflict. Amid the murder and mayhem are millions of people who are suffering the prolonged effects of war. Dead bodies lay in the streets. Areas have no electricity, no water, and no medical support. Mustafa lived in Homs. One day, troops were going door to door with knives. He was forced to watch his family massacred.
تعال الصبح ما تلاقي المسجد ولدني هون ثلاثة هون معي وكلهم في مدبحين
Dead people are being dumped in the streets in bin liners as a form of intimidation. Each day, thousands of refugees spill across the borders. An estimated 3 million people could be refugees by the end of the year. That's more people than live in Manchester, Cardiff, Glasgow, Bradford, and Birmingham combined. Camps are overflowing.
يوم جتنا القذيفة كل صبحنا على بعض، لا ضل بنوك لا ضل سبابيك لا ضل شيء إلا ما نزل كله بالأرض. الحمد لله طلعنا عايشين.
People are living wherever they can. They've lost their homes, their livelihoods, their dignity, their children, their lives, their limbs. This is Bilal. His brother was shot dead between the eyes by a sniper. He was shot in the arm and was lucky to escape with his son. Even the nurse had a terrifying experience. She was kidnapped, imprisoned and tortured. During her ordeal, her hands were burnt with gas flames. Time is running out for the people of Syria.
So I hope by now, rather than asking why I should help, you should be asking how can I help. If you see some, mashallah, some real lovely kids around the bigger, these would be the kind of kids we're helping. And it's our duty and responsibility as Muslims to be helping Muslims in need across the world. This is what the Ummah is all about. So here's a unique opportunity for you to get involved. This summer, 5 cyclists from Scotland will be cycling 3,300 miles from Scotland to Syria. And we need your help. Our aim is to raise enough funds to build a safe village for orphans and widows inside Syria. It'll include things like a hospital, a school, clean water, and other facilities like that. This is needed to save people's lives. So inshallah, if you do want to help out, we have a Facebook page. It's called Cycle from Scotland to Syria. There's details on it how to get involved. You can do things like joining us in parts of the cycle, publicising our events, donating, and loads of other things like that. So please do, inshallah, help us out. Thank you for having me here today, and Strathclyde, Assalamu alaikum. Bring brother Hassan Al-Husairi back here, inshallah.
Sorry, back on the screen.
That was quick.
I have places to go.
Sorry?
I have places to be, that's what.
Oh,
What way? Oh, minutes, huh?
Someone do one. Let me try to get the PowerPoint open.
No, man, I'm waiting for the restart.
Michael? I'm back, Hassan. I'll be taking you through the main cycle and why we're doing it and who are we, who am I, who's Amis, what's the background, and what's human appeal, what have we done for Syria, and why are we cycling? Are we cycling for fun? Are we cycling for, just because it's a crazy idea? No. Inshallah, I'll be going through the, who are we? Let's start off. So, who are we? Well, there's 8 cyclists joining us from Glasgow to Syria. 8 cyclists joining all the way. And there'll be 30 cyclists joining us from Glasgow to London. And another 15 cyclists joining us from London to Paris. And from Paris, that's us all the way down ourselves. There will be a support vehicle with us, an ambulance, that we can carry our equipment, our spare bags. So, alhamdulillah, we've got a support vehicle in hand. Cyclists there's some cyclists from Pakistan, there's some from Libya, Egypt. It's all from different countries. Alhamdulillah, it's not all the Pacific country. And from the cyclists joining from Glasgow to London, there's different professionals, policemen, dentists, different pharmacists. So alhamdulillah, we've got even different cultures, different religions in from Glasgow to London. And who am I? I'm Hassan Al-Husairi. The brother introduced me. I've never been to Syria, but I call myself Syrian. But inshallah, that will be the first time going to Syria, inshallah. And I'm currently at third year with US Scotland doing business technology. And inshallah, it will be the first time cycling to Syria. Well, this is a bit personal, why I choose to cycle to Syria. Well, after completing Tough Mudder, I don't know if you know Tough Mudder, it's like a run with obstacles. And I've completed that. Oh, and Spartan Beast, similar thing. It was about 16-mile run with 30 obstacles. So I did that for Syria. All of them was for Syria. And I did a 10k run during Ramadan. That was the second day of Ramadan. So I'd say I've raised £2,000 on that run, and for the Spartan, every run and every challenge I do was for Syria, alhamdulillah. And on the other side, I thought of this. It's a unique idea that no one has done before. Like people, you do fundraising dinners, you do bazaar, you do a fun day, but not a cycle from Scotland to Syria. That is such a long distance or a challenging mission. So, what is Human Appeal International? Has anyone heard of that? Anyone heard of Human Appeal? Well, it's based in London, but they work in everywhere in the world. But it's one of the first charities that was worked inside Syria at the very beginning of the revolution. It started distributing bread, flour, medical equipment, everything since at the beginning of the revolution. It was one of the first charities working inside Syria, not outside. They worked both, but inside Syria was one of the very few charities. So alhamdulillah, we're doing the cycle for them, and it's a registered charity, alhamdulillah. Well, this is one of the cycle on the Spartan Beast, and one of the brothers, I think he's at the cycle from Glasgow to Edinburgh, and back. And the other one is the Spartan Beast. Spartan Beast was in London and raised £5,000 alhamdulillah for Syria, and that was the other 10k one. I started doing the ones when it was 2011, and that was one of the challenge on the far right photo. That was when the jubba, top or whatever you call it, that I said like, if I raise £1,000, I'll run with wearing the thob. So alhamdulillah, I raised £1,000 and I wore the thob. And if you're wondering, the middle photo was the flag. That's the Free Syrian Army flag. The Free Syrian Army flag. And the far left, that was the flag that is before they changed it. It was red, but they changed it to green afterwards. Our project. What's our project? Inshallah, our project, our aim, our milestone, first milestone is 250,000. Then once we reach it, inshallah, we'll increase it to 500,000. That's the cost of the project. That is, it's got 700 homes, and the company, each home will accompany a family of 5. So that's inside between the borders, Turkey and Syria, and it's made mostly only for the orphans and the widows. That's the most vulnerable people in the conflict. You can't do it for anyone else. Those are the easily targeted people that you can find in a war zone. They're weak. They've got no one to support them. They have no one basically. So that's why we've chosen to do it for the orphans and the widows. Because a lot of children now, and women inside Syria, the children, the dad are killed or the mum, so that they're just walking about in the streets in Syria. They're vulnerable, they're easily targeted. There's a lot of stories inside Syria. This Hassan Al-Husairi, that was in 2010, where he was kidnapped and he was tortured to death. His body was cut into pieces. And there's a lot of stories about the kids and the women have faced rape. That's the latest weapon they use. They can't use it with bombs or the killing. So they use rape. The rape the women, that's a source of weapon that they use. They can't force the people to stop fighting against them. They can't force them. They've used all kinds of weapons. They've used nuclear weapons, chemical bombs, all sorts of missiles. But they've turned into rape. They capture a woman and they rape her in front of her family, in front of her father, in front of her brother, in front of her family. And then afterwards they kill her. So there's a lot of women that are targeted inside Syria, so that's why we've made it specifically for the women and for the children. So, inshallah. And this is the figures from the UN. There's almost 9 million displaced inside Syria. 9 million displaced in Syria. Imagine that. Who are these 9 million? They have nowhere to sleep, nowhere to live, no shelter, no food, nothing. 9 million. And according to UNICEF, there's 4.3 million children inside Syria are living under severe poverty. When I mean severe poverty, it's not like in Scotland there's poverty that kids that could live under £2 a day. But they eat, but they can live. But inside Syria, they're killing animals to eat. They're killing donkeys, they're killing dogs, killing tigers to eat them. They're killing actual animals. So it's not like anywhere else. So 4.3 million is not a small number, it's not a small figure, it's such a very, very large figure. And they're out there in the streets, you can find them. The pro-Assad fighters, they can easily capture them and they could gather them in a hall. They've done it so many times, they gather them in a hall and they cut them, they butcher them by hand, by the knife, by hand and hammers. Not by a gun, they don't shoot them, they kill them, they chop their heads off. And sometimes they torture them to death, they let them bleed to death rather than killing them straight away. So, inshallah, from this project, we're trying our best to make it, to reach our target of 500,000. And at the moment, even the children who aren't targeted, normal children, they face psychological problems in the daily lives in schools. They don't have schools to go to. Schools are bombed. They've changed the schools into a military zone where the army could station the pro-Assad, the regime could station their men, and they could just target the locals. So there's no schools, there's no education, there's no hospitals. There isn't anything that they could have shelter on. There's over 2 million refugees that left Syria. 2 million. There's about 450,000 in Lebanon. Even in Lebanon, they're targeted by the military regime called Hezbollah. I don't know if you know Hezbollah. They're targeting the refugees that leave Syria, and they either capture them, take them hostages, kill them, torture them. They're either targeting Lebanon. They're not safe in Lebanon. And Jordan, that's beside Syria, Yarmouk camp. That's the most refugees go to because it's easier and safer, slightly safer, but the conditions there are really, really bad conditions. The government aren't supporting it's only the individuals, like businessmen or some ladies in the Gulf, neighbouring countries. They come and support them. And there's some stories that said there's some men that go there and hire women for prostitution, and that's weak sources. higher. Inshallah, the village itself inside Syria from Aleppo will have, I've said it from the beginning, I said 700 homes. That's no mistake. It's 700 people and 100 homes. 700 people and 100 homes. I'll show you the homes in a minute. Those are the homes. And you can actually write your name on the home. And the village is safe, it's secure. That's beside at the border beside Aleppo and Turkey. So it is safe. It wouldn't be attacked. Well, it's really high chance it will be attacked. It could be attacked by the air force, but there's a very chance because it's beside Turkey, so it could affect the Turkish border. And of course, the village has a hospital. It has a care home that could whoever has any problem. Medical problem, it has a hospital, it has a school as well, it has clean water, it's like a local place, but it's safe, it's suitable for a large number for a conflict like this. And the first camp, if you read it, the first village was opened on the 18th of January. And it was full of it was the people from inside Syria, the displaced people from inside Syria, not from people from Turkey, not from the Turkish camps. They've saved, they've got a place, but not in good conditions. But those people are targeted from inside Syria, from displaced people from inside Syria. As you can read, it says it's got bedding, furniture, storage, hygiene facilities, and structure. Got a mosque, education facilities, everything that you will need in a village and for yourself to live. When you left your country in a luxury life, those Syrians before the revolution, they lived like us. They never lived in a camp. They lived like us. They had a car, they had a job, they had everything. But now they have to leave. When they leave, when they go to Turkey, they sit in a tent, just a tent, and there's mud coming underneath. There's no clean water. There isn't anything. And when they go to Lebanon, there is people that can help them. But there's Hezbollah. I don't know if you know Hezbollah. It's a military that they target the Syrians leaving from Syria to go to Lebanon. They target them. They can either kidnap them, kill them, or torture them, or whatever they can do to them. And when they go to Iraq, there's another military called Jaish al-Mahdi from the regime, from the Iraqi regime, from al-Mahdi called. And those are targeting the Syrians as well, and leaving from Syria. And so everywhere they've targeted, everywhere they don't have a place to stay in peaceful place. And Turkey, when they go to Turkey, it's a tent. Basically, there's tents in the desert, and the degrees now when it gets to summer is 50 degrees, 40 degrees, and there's any air conditioning or anything. So, it is in a bad condition. Well, I'll talk to you about the current situation in Syria, the current progress and what's happening in Syria between the regime and the rebels. At the moment, 2 weeks ago, the cousin of Bashar was killed, and I heard of it. The cousin of he was killed in Rafiya between the borders. They had a battle between the Free Syrian army the Free Syrian Army just consists of 100,000 soldiers that's defected from the regime with the arms. Some of them defected with the arms, with the equipment, with the weapons, and others they've served the army when they were 18 or 19. So they're just defected, and when they get defected, they're not only targeted, but the family are targeted. I know a lot of stories. I've heard a lot of stories that one of the commanders, his wife was raped and she was killed and she was left in the river. They killed her and they put her in the river. And there's a lot of other stories that they killed their children, they killed the extended family. Like if your second name was, say for example, was Umar, and you lived in an area, say for example, was Governor, they just find anyone whose name is Umar, regardless of your age, your gender, if you're disabled, if you're 90 years old, man or a child, they kill you. They don't have any mercy whatsoever. So this is a regime, is such a cruel regime. It's been there for 50 years. It's called Ba'ath regime. It's made of minority was Alawi. Does anyone know what Alawi means? Alawi, that's an offshoot of Shiism, and the minority of Syria. They are made of 5% of Syria. But a lot of people ask me, why have they, like the minority, why are they in power? Well, 50 years ago, they made the deal with the West. They could stay in power as long as they keep Israel safe. They do not attack Israel. You can stay in power as long as you don't attack Israel. So that's the power now. The big allies with Israel and all these big countries. You can see in the news, Israel and Syria are against each other, they're talking wars, but that's all the media, but under the table, they support each other. Like 50 years, they never attacked Israel, they never attacked anything, they never fired a bullet, whatever. When his people rise against him, he sends his tank, he sends his F-16, he sends everything, as if it's a war against Israel, but it's his people. Anyway, back to the topic. At the moment, 70% of Syria are free in the devil's hands, 70%. The only main areas that are in the regime's hand are Damascus, Strathclyde, his hometown, and some parts of Aleppo and Idlib, and some parts of Homs. That's 70%. That's in the devil's hand. 30% is in his hand. Like 30% is not alone. Most of it is in the devil's hand. And alhamdulillah, there is a progress. Like there is major progress from the Free Syrian Army. They've taken a lot of checkpoints and a lot of army bases into the world of Idlib and Strathclyde. At the moment, there's a lot of news coming out from Strathclyde, the hometown of Bashar al-Assad, called Qabdah. They're attacking his place and they're trying to gain control in the city, inshallah. So there is progress, but at the same time, Iran and Lebanon, they're sending troops, money, and a lot of equipment, especially Iran. Iran is sending billions. Like you're probably thinking, it's been 3 years, he's spending billions and billions each month on his military and food, on media war. They're trying to cover everything. They're trying to use everything, spending billions a month. So who's helping them? Who's covering them? It's Russia, it's China, Iran. A lot of countries are supporting them. Even America is supporting them. They're supporting them. If you really think that Barack Obama was say for the past 3 years that he crossed the red line and blah blah blah. No, he supports them. But on the TV, you think he's against them. We strongly condemn the attack on the massacre in that city. We strongly condemn. But he supports them completely. But if it was in Libya, within a few months, he would send his troops over. But alhamdulillah, in Syria, the Mujahideen, inshallah, they will finish the job themselves. They started the revolution, and they will end it themselves. Alhamdulillah, they've asked for help, like no-fly zone and everything, but now they've asked for only one person, that's Allah. Alhamdulillah, their intentions are clean. There's a lot of hadith. I don't know if someone knows hadith that there'll be an army from Sham, army from Iraq, army from Yemen. And one of the Sahaba said, which one shall I follow? He said, go to the army in Sham. That's the army will be coming from the Sham. That's the powerful one. And alhamdulillah, and there is progress, and this is a test to the Ummah. This is the test. And you see in the news, the women are getting raped, they're getting killed, the kids are getting butchered, the kids, 9 years old kid, they found them in the street, they just butcher them. There's a lot, I found a lot of this, I have seen a lot of videos and pictures, but they're very graphic, the blood and the snipers, there's an ally in Aleppo, I don't know if you know it. Snipers were stationed at the top in the buildings, big buildings, and they snipe anyone who's moving. Anyone. And they play games, like if they play with the friends, games, or I'm going to shoot him in his head. And other friends say, no, I'm going to shoot him in his leg. And after 10 minutes, I'll let him suffer, shoot him in the other leg, then on his hand, then on his face. So they're very cruel, the build and the bodies are very nasty, they're very cruel. They don't shoot him directly to kill him, but they shoot him to torture him slowly, let him bleed to death. Even the women, there's Zainab al-Husni, in the beginning of the revolution in Homs, city in Homs, that's 2012, last year. They've captured her in one of the cities, I think it's called Bab Spa. They were driving a taxi, they kidnapped her, they took her to a place and they denied hostages from the other side to be released. But they released them, like they made a deal, but they betrayed them. What they did, they chopped her in pieces. They chopped the lady into pieces. And they've sent the body over back to them. There's a lot of stories, there's plenty of stories that they're very cruel regime, and there's a lot of governments supporting it, a lot of governments. Iraq, Lebanon, Jaish al-Mahdi. That's Jaish al-Mahdi, that's well known. Jaish al-Mahdi is the Iraqi regime. That's because the same sect, Alawi, but they're offshore of Shia. That's what the president. So Lebanon, the Hezbollah, and even the Jordanian regime, they're not helping the Syrians. You've seen in the news, we're condemning that, blah blah blah. They're against the revolution. But there's individuals inside they're helping individuals, not the government. They're against his name is King Abdullah. He's against the revolution. But alhamdulillah, the only person that's helping is Erdogan, the Turkish Prime Minister. He's the only person that's helping. He's opened his borders. He let the refugees come in. He supported them, provided them with aid, shelter, everything. And recently, last week, he shot down one of the fighter jets, the same fighter jets, alhamdulillah. And he's the only person who's helping the Syrians inside Syria. But other than that, there's no one else. And the Syrians inside Syria, they said they gave up and they've left the victory to Allah, and it's the Him who will bring victory. It's not America, it's not anyone who's bring victory. It's not NATO, no flighting. It's gonna. If you believe, you do your act, you do your duty, then you do your action, whatever you want to do. You believe in Allah, Allah will bring victory. It's a test. Alhamdulillah. And I'll move to questions. Anyone who has any questions that I can answer, relating the cycling, relating Syria, relating anything that I can possibly answer. Yeah, sure.
From the statistic, there are 5% of Alawites in Syria. I wonder who worked with the Syrian army. If we calculate the number of 5% is not enough to be an army forces for the Syrian. So who worked for them?
What he did at the beginning, he placed the high commanders, the high general Alawi, and he placed the soldiers as Sunni, like normal soldiers, anyone. But he placed the high officials Alawi. So now what you see is the soldiers are defecting from the army, not the high officials. That's why you use the mentality, very sneaky mentality. So that's why 5% used only like his sect. Even the government are only his sect. His sect. He hardly used any Sunni. So he knows that if anything happens, they don't defect.
So which means the army itself is Sunni.
The majority of the army are Sunni, but that's the soldiers only. So not the commander, not the general, not the anyone. The general, the places, all the high officials are from his sect, all of them. So he used a very, very clever way. Like if he placed it mixed from the beginning of the revolution, it will be crumbled. The regime will be crumbled by now if he placed mixed. But he was clever. Like even in the schools, the head teacher are Alawi and the teachers are Sunni. Even in the hospital, the head of the hospital and that. So it's very, very, very. Any other questions?
Brother,
Yeah.
I do. In the rebel-held territories, did they let charities such as the Human Appeal ease their access?
Yes. There's Human Appeal goes to Turkey borders, to Idlib, and that's open. That's open. Like it's in the Free Syrian Army hand, so it's open from Human Appeal to go in to Idlib and to Aleppo. That's the only. It gets to Homs. That's very off. That is very rare because it's very difficult to get to Homs. The highways are blocked from this army, and they need to take other routes. So they take the aid inside to Idlib and Aleppo. Any other questions?
How many Syrians actually are trapped not within the Free Syrian Army? As in, how many people that actually receive the
Civilians.
Civilians, yeah. People that needs help, that need those charities, but are within the no-go zone by the charities. They can't enter it. How many people?
There is cities like Damascus, suburb of Damascus, like Daraya, Ota, these kind of cities. There's Homs. Homs is a well-known city that is Khalid bin Walid. You know Khalid bin Walid. He was the grave, the coffin. That's outside the topic. I'll come back to it. His grave was in Homs, and what happened? His grave was bombed. There's no grave of him. It was bombed in the beginning of the revolution. Khalid bin Walid. A lot of Sahaba graves in Syria are bombed. They come to it, they vandalize it, they bomb it, they shell it, but there's cities like Homs, Tbilisi, Vostok, Balsba. Those cities are rebel held and they're sieged. They can't leave the area. The sub-society has been sieged for 6 months, and there's no aid can go in. Not a single charity can go in. There's no aid. It's very tense. It's very tense. They can't go in. Like Homs, because that's in the middle of Syria. They're not close to anywhere. They're slightly close to Lebanon. There's few aid come to from Lebanon, but that's the only Homs, suburbs of Damascus, and that's the only areas that are difficult for the civilians. That's the civilians when they start eating. If you've probably seen the news, they ate a tiger. Probably see they kill a tiger and they ate the tiger. They even give fatwa to eat dogs and cats. They have nothing to eat. They have nothing to eat. The kids, they start killing the dogs and they have nothing to eat. So, but the easiest one are in Idlib and Aleppo. That's the one close to the borders. That's easiest. Like it was held by the Free Syrian Army and slightly safe. So that's the only two main cities that could easy to manage for the aid. But other than that, there isn't much. Any more questions?
Yeah. What do you think the future for Syria now? Because we don't seem to find the end of this conflict, and even the rebellions are actually divided. There are Mujahideen, and then there are also other peoples that taking advantage of the situation in Syria.
At the moment, it's very difficult to think to look at the future of Syria. It's very difficult. It's very unstable. As you said, there's a lot of different groups are going inside Syria to fight, different aims for the fighting. But at the moment, it's very difficult to think. Like from the regime themselves, they've created groups from the regime they say the Mujahideen, but they go inside with the Mujahideen and they kill the real Mujahideen, the real Free Syrian army. So what they do, they bring their own group, they say they're the Muslims, they go to like Idlib and Aleppo, and they create the conflicts. And when the battle begins, they start killing the real ones. You understand? But there's other groups come and fight, but it's very difficult to see Syria in the future. It'll be very unstable because different groups, different aims for it.
Do you think Bashar is now getting stronger, or
He's getting weaker day by day. Day by day, he's getting weaker and weaker. His city now, Latkia, is beside on the sea. That's getting bombed, and that's very. It's going to shake his seat. Is very progress for the Free Syrian army. They've targeted his hometown. That is very sensitive, as well equipped with the military and this high military. So the sent rockets to Free Syrian army, but he has days coming, inshallah, very soon.
do you think other countries like Israel or Western world has got anything to do with what happened?
Of course. The main countries they have something to do with Syria, Israel, even Britain. They have got to do with it, but they haven't supported. They say we've sent aid, billions of aid. That they've sent the other day was 100 million, long time ago, a few months ago. But people inside Syria, I know them, and at Turkey, and they say they received nothing. Even America, they said they sent, I don't know how much they sent, $100 million of aid to Syria, but they received, inside Syria they received nothing. I'm telling this from people inside from Syria, they received nothing.
Maybe when they said that was meant for Bashar Assad, not the Syrian.
Yes. Some of them, honestly, most of them, that goes to the charities supporting Bashar Assad. They go inside the cities and they give it to his soldiers and his people. That's been seen on TV, like on YouTube and everywhere on Facebook. People publicize it. They've actually sent the aid to his fighters.
So which area of Syria that you said you're going to?
I'm from Idlib. I'm originally from Idlib. I'll be going to Idlib. It's not far from the borders. It's just a few 10. It's a safe zone. It's not the central of Idlib. The central of Idlib is controlled by the regime. The suburbs are controlled by the Free Syrian army. So I'll be going there. Then I'll be going there cycling. Then I'll be going to the village in Aleppo. Then, inshallah, we'll see the situation in the same inside Syria and see the refugee camps in Turkey. Inshallah, see what we can do for them. There's a lot of hadith about Bilad al-Sham. Does anyone know any?
Sheikh. Who's the Sheikh?
Sheikh
in Medina.
Sheikh, تفضل. نعم.
تكلم عربي ولا
ايه؟ انا عربي وانجلش.
تريد الحديث ولا
حديث ابو شام. Okay. This hadith says that there's no hair. Okay.
what will come so close to the Imam. And then the victim will come is with everyone thinks that
Yeah, that's a hadith, strong hadith as well. And there's another hadith that when the Prophet ﷺ was born, his mother saw the palace of Sham was lighting with no. That's when he was born. His mom saw the palace of Sham, Damascus, was lighting from no. There's many hadith that if there's no hell in Sham, there's no hell in the Ummah. Inshallah, this is the test. Like, inshallah, this is the test for every Muslim. And even for every human, like even for a human to see a child getting killed, regardless of his religion, regardless of his culture, or regardless of anything, to see a child getting killed for nothing, and these children, they gather children and families. You've probably seen on YouTube they put the picture of Bashar al-Assad, and they tell him to bow for Bashar and tell him this is your God, and some of them refuse and they get killed. And they tell him, say, La ilaha illallah, there's no God except Bashar. And these kids, some men, they put them in a grave. They tell him, say, they bury him up to his neck, sorry. And they tell him, say, La ilaha illallah Bashar. He refuses. He says, no, La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah. And they bury him alive. They bury him alive. They're using different methods of torture. And now the worst torture is rape for the inside Syria, to capture women, and they threaten her, they rape her in front of her family, and they torture her to death, then they rape her. Like recently, last week, my cousin was killed inside Syria. He was sniped. Then after he was sniped, they knew he was killed, but they had to make sure he was fully killed. So they shelled the building. They shelled it by a tank. And when they came back, his relatives came back to see him. His body was in pieces. They only found his hand. His vest was flying about. He was different places and different distances because he was shelled the building completely, collapsed. So they only found his hand. So that's always a small story. Other stories where they capture young men and they put them at the river and they just shoot them. But inshallah, victory is near, inshallah, inshallah. Any questions?
When Syria was in peace a few years ago, would you expect this brutality could happen?
Yes, I expected this to happen. Because it's in 1982 in Hama, his father, Hassan Al-Husairi, butchered 40,000 in 2 or 3 days. 40,000 in 2 or 3 days. There's a small movement happened called the Muslim Brotherhood. Small movement, young men carrying weapons. And they surrounded the city, Hama, surrounded by soldiers and tanks. And they said they're going to demolish them. At that time they had no media. So he butchered them, 40,000 just like this. So we all expected this to happen. He was so cruel. It was built in the hearts. They're built in his hearts, and they've been supported. They have strong supporters. Alhamdulillah, we have stronger supporters than him. We have Allah. But they may have Russia. They may have big countries supporting them. But the fighters inside Syria, they know they have some. They're not getting support with America. They're not getting support with anyone. But they know they have the intention with Allah Subhanahu wa Taala. So whoever could be supporting the regime, maybe the world would be supporting the regime, maybe everyone supporting the regime, but they're alone. So as expected to see this type of torture inside Syria, the killing, the torture, the rape, the massacre, everything. Any more questions?
There are lots of charities, different charities, praying for donations. So, could you could you can we know which one is actually giving monies to the real people in needs?
The only people who are in need, I see, is inside Syria. Because those are targeted by the regime. Those are any minute they're saying that the unsafe. Other people in Turkey and Jordan and Lebanon, they are in need, but they have a safe, no one is shooting them. But the charities are working. I know a lot of charities working inside Syria. Because I have a lot of relatives inside Syria. They say they've seen Human Care Syria inside Syria. They've seen Al Imdad. They've seen Human Appeal, Hand in Hand. They've seen big name charities.
Islamic Relief.
I think they have seen it. They come to the Turkish borders. But a lot of charities don't go inside Syria. They don't go inside Syria. A lot of charities, most of them don't go. The only few ones that goes inside Syria, as a name, Human Appeal, Human Care Syria. But it's very dangerous. They can't risk their lives to go inside because there's a lot of stories that a lot of human aid workers go inside. They get kidnapped, and some of them get killed. Some of them come back alive. But yes. But the most people are in need are inside Syria. That's the most people are in desperate need inside Syria. Inside the cities that get bombed every single day. They have no access to clean water, they have no access to any food. And Homs, the cities have been seized for 6 months. There's no one coming in, no one coming out, no food, nothing, no aid. And they've been left to eat the animals, the dead animals inside. They've been left to eat them with the animals. So those are the most needy people inside. Any more questions? Anything relating to cycling? Or inshallah, the cycling will be. Inshallah, we will get that in one piece. Inshallah, we will help people who are in need, whoever is in need, and may Allah reward us and reward everyone who is donating towards the cause. Inshallah. Yeah, there's a Just Giving page. You can donate online called Cycle from Scotland to Syria. Human Appeal, and there's a Facebook page, Cycle from Scotland to Syria. So you can donate online. You can donate to anywhere. Phone Human Appeal 01461 0161. This one's a good one. There's a lot of methods of donating. Inshallah, we'll reach our target of 500,000, and we will build a village inside Syria. Because those two vulnerable people are the orphans and the widows. They really need our help. I cycle, yes, most of the days.
Are you from here to Syria?
I'll be cycling from here to Syria, yes. 3,200 miles. 3,200.
How many miles every day?
We'll be covering averagely 80 miles. 80 miles. So some days we can do less, some days we can do more, just depending on our body, depending on the route, depending on if there's any hills, depending on the food we've ate, so just depending. But averagely we're aiming to cover 80 miles a day. And that will take us 6 weeks. 6 weeks from 17th of May, from George Square. Inshallah, we'll be leaving George Square on the 17th of May, it'll be Saturday in the morning. We'll be leaving there and heading to Locker Bay, and from Locker Bay to Lake District. And Manchester will have a fundraising dinner, and Birmingham will have a fundraising dinner, and so is London. But in Glasgow we'll have it on the 14th of May, on Friday. We'll have a fundraising dinner, inshallah. So today will be given to us, even in Paris as well. We have a fundraising dinner. After Paris, we'll be going to Eastern Europe, and inshallah we'll reach Syria. Inshallah. Inshallah.
How many of you?
There is only 8 cyclists doing it all the way from Glasgow to Syria, but there's 30 cyclists doing it from Glasgow to London. There's 15 doing it from London to Paris. But there'll be a support vehicle with us, like a car with us, just to have our luggages, our spare bags if anything happens. Needs a crew and everything.
Which country is in Europe that you pass?
We will go to, first of all, we'll go to from London to Paris. We'll go back to Luxembourg, Belgium, Germany, Switzerland, Geneva, Serbia, Bulgaria, Hungary, Greece, Turkey.
Istanbul.
Yeah, Istanbul. Yeah. Istanbul will be the toughest country in whole of cycling. There's no cycling routes. There's very cycling routes, and it's very dangerous cycling in Turkey. And there's all hills and mountains and everything in Turkey. And there's dangerous drivers as well. So,
Yeah.
so Turkey will be the worst one. But inshallah, you never know. Maybe heaven wants, you know. But from what the resources, it's very tough in Turkey. It'll be 30 degrees in summer, even above 30 degrees. And the summer, 17th of May, until 28th of May. We'll arrive on the first day of Ramadan, inshallah, 28th of June.
So we're going to cycle back to Glasgow.
No. You're taking the plane. I'll walk it back. Why don't you join us?
Farmy.
I told
You want to cycle back to Malaysia?
Yeah. I can join you from Malaysia after Syria.
Inshallah, I just try to plan myself. Maybe I cannot join you to the whole to see that.
Yeah.
See.
Even with one, yeah, he joined us from
Glasgow to Edinburgh.
From Glasgow to Edinburgh. And yeah.
Not this time. Sorry.
No, it's staying.
Busy with my study.
You can study while you're cycling. So yes.
So later on.
Sorry?
Later on.
Later on, maybe we'll come back cycling. Any questions like regarding Syria, like current issues in Syria, or cycling, or anything, of what we're going to eat for food?
Yeah, why don't you tell us, what do you plan to eat?
We plan to eat, the brother knows what to eat in cycling, like tuna, chicken breast, jam,
Right.
oat, porridge.
No kebab, no.
Kebab and turkey. And turkey will be kebab. So yes, and turkey. But maybe we'll have biryani. You never know, someone could invite us for dinner, biryani and curry.
You cannot cycle after having biryani. How do you plan your accommodation throughout the week?
We'll be camping sites, because it's cheap, and it's only £5 or even £3 just to camping sites. So every 5 days we'll be booking a hostel or a hotel. Every 5 days to relax every 5 days. Every 5, throughout we'll be camping in camping sites. That's only in UK, France, but after we'll be camping in the park or wherever we can find anywhere. Shalom. Any more questions?
Yeah.
Yes.
About Syria.
Yes.
Actually, what is the long-term strategy by Bashar to win this? I mean,
to win this?
Yeah.
He's not
for him.
For him.
Yeah. How is he going to?
He is low in money. He is low in military. He is low in everything. Like in money, he's bankrupt from a long time ago. But he's getting support from Iran, getting support from a lot of countries. Russia is a big ally with him because he's supporting with weapons. Every year they have 30 billion contract for the weapons every year from 1970s. So the big allies, they're supporting them now. China.
So can he survive?
He can't survive. No, not for long. He's been gone for 3 years. The first year and a half, he was surviving on his own. But later on, you see the Hezbollah, the Shia military, has been sending troops to inside Syria. Jaish al-Mahdi from Iraq will be sending troops to Syria. And Even Russia now, Russia at the moment, recently they've sent troops inside Syria. So the first year and a half he was surviving on himself, on his military and on his own money. But afterwards, he was getting support. Now even Iran is low on money. Even Iran is on low money. So he won't last long. He won't last long. He won't last long. He's dropping on a very slow way. He's getting very loose. Very loose. Recent events, yesterday and today, they bombed his hometown, Free Syrian Army. So it's not going to take long, inshallah. Inshallah, they've started the revolution and they will end the Free Syrian Army. Any questions?
Is there any charity that collect money for the regime?
For what, sorry?
For the regime.
The regime, there is in America.
No, this like charity. They said they are for Syrian people, but actually they are.
There is Red Cross. Red Cross, you know Red Cross is well-known charity organization worldwide. But I've seen few clips on YouTube. They said they're going to send aid to the people who are in need, but they send it to the people who's supporting the regime. Even in some cases, that when they send food, some tinned and canned food, it says on it, this is for the Syrian people inside Syria, and people are selling it in shops. They're selling it in a shop and seeing the logo. This is supposed to be for the people inside Syria who are in need, selling it in shops. Any more questions? I think as well, recently, there's a lot of, mashallah, using charities inside Syria with aid. I've seen charities and individuals, people are donating a lot of money inside. I've seen inside Syria, charity working inside Syria for the aid and Jazakallah everyone, and I hope you enjoyed the talk and benefit, inshallah. Jazakallah.
Thank you for our brother here to share some of the experiences, and we all pray and donate as much as we possibly could generously, and we pray that inshallah your mission will be a success. You're able to raise that money and also help Syria, inshallah. Will help the prayers of those who are being condemned, ours being heard first and most now.
You could help yourself with the posters.
Yeah, there's a posters there. You help yourself.
That's the humanitarian posters that were in touch in Syria. Can I give a speech? Yeah, go ahead.